Hi, friends. I'm Scott Giles, a certified consulting hypnotist and a life coach. And today I want to talk about verbal self-defense. This is a subject which is near and dear to my heart for a couple of reasons. First, I'm a martial artist. I have multiple black belts in Taekwondo, and I was the ancient weapons instructor for my dojang for more than a decade. My master used to tell me that in any tournament or any fight, the person who got into the ring and who got angry was going to lose. A calm, smaller, less skilled, less flexible person would win against a larger, more flexible, stronger person who got angry. What happens is the fight or flight syndrome. If you get angry, the primitive part of your brain believes that you're being attacked by a saber-toothed tiger, and it changes its internal functioning to equip you with the skills you would use to run away from a saber-toothed tiger or to fight one, fight or flight. What happens is energy is pulled from the cortex, the outer shell of the brain where you do your logical thought, and delegated to the limbic system in the middle of the brain, which controls your emotions and hand-eye coordination. That's fine if you're running away from a saber-toothed tiger, but if you're trying to defend yourself against someone who's trying to hurt your feelings with their words, or if you're in a situation where there's an emotionally charged verbal exchange going on, you don't want that. You want to stay with your cortex fully functioning so that you have all of your intellectual resources available to you. And just as this is true in physical self-defense, it's also true in verbal self-defense. Now, I hold 2 degrees in philosophy with a strong emphasis on formal logic. I was always, during my philosophical training, I was always respected for my skills at oral debate because I learned to stay calm, and that allowed me to keep options before me. When I would go into a debate, I would have plans within plans. I would have an initial strategy that I would attempt to use to win the day, but if that failed, I would switch to a secondary strategy and to a tertiary one if I needed, but I always had something to do next. I never got angry, because if I got angry, even if I was being provoked by my opponent, which sometimes happened, the result would be that I wouldn't be thinking clearly, and I wouldn't remember my operational plan. Some years ago, I was elected to be the president of one of the ministerial associations in my denomination. I was explicitly elected because the nominating committee understood that a fight with one part of the denomination was inevitable, and they wanted to recruit as president someone who could be a good wartime leader. So I took that seriously. I was elected and served the maximum number of terms, which is 2. Imagine this scene in your mind. I'm on a Skype call with a denominational official, and this official opens immediately, trying to get me upset and angry, trying to shame me. Well, I realized immediately what this person was doing, and I had no intention of falling for that stunt. So I just stayed absolutely calm, made a few jokes, and just continued to argue my case. The official's eyes got wider and wider and wider. You could see the white sclera all around the cornea. The official had no alternative plan. So obviously shaming works for most people, but it didn't work for me, and they had no way of proceeding. And the stronger I argued my case, and the more and more their preferred strategy was failing, the result was they got frightened, they got angry, and I carried the day. I got what I wanted from that call. Now, hostile words are toxic, and they will hurt you if you are not able to defend yourself from them. Because as I've said before, you are listening. Your subconscious mind is listening to what's said. And if you don't have a strategy for keeping yourself safe, those toxic words go into your subconscious mind and they will have an effect. Now, as one of my volunteer activities, I am the legislation and governmental concerns person for the unionized wing of the National Guild of Hypnotists, Guild 104, the Office of Professional Employees International Union of the AFL-CIO. So I am often the person who has to go into a state capitol to argue with legislators or lobbyists if there's an attempt to pass legislation that's hostile to the hypnotic profession. This sometimes happens when medical doctors, psychiatrists, psychologists, and so on try to pass legislation that says only they should be allowed to do hypnotism. So I've got a lot of experience in oral debate in that setting. And it was fascinating. Here in Illinois, when we passed our law to protect hypnotists back in 1996 or 97, I think, I was dealing with a lobbyist for the other side. And it was so obvious that this person was trying to provoke me to get angry. They were saying really foul things about me and treating me with a level of disrespect that I would never do to another person. But I realized what they were doing. So I used a technique called verbal judo. Now, in martial arts, judo is called the gentle way. How it works is you're trained to do the opposite of what your instincts would lead you to do. If your opponent grabs you and pulls, your instinct is to pull back. But you don't in judo. You grab hold of your opponent and you push, taking them right off balance. If they grab you and they push you, you don't push back. You grab them and you pull them, and they come right over back, and so on. So if they push, you pull. If they pull, you push. Not what your instinct would lead you to do, but this is how you take the strategic advantage in that situation. So applying this in a verbal formula, you just simply agree with what they're saying about you. You see, it's not possible to argue with someone who's agreeing with you. So they say, yeah, you're absolutely right. I'm a lousy person, a bad minister. I'm totally self-serving and completely without any moral worth whatsoever. In fact, the fact that the ground doesn't open up and swallow me right here probably is proof that God doesn't exist. So I was using hyperbole, making a joke out of the attempts of this lobbyist to get me angry in front of the legislative committee. And of course, they're all like this because they knew exactly what I was doing, and the strategy failed completely. I didn't get mad. I made light of it, and I carried the day. Verbal judo. You do the opposite of what you think. Your opponent pushes, you pull. Your opponent pulls, you push. Use their weight against them. It's impossible to argue with someone who's agreeing with you. I saw a wonderful cartoon on Facebook. A person consults this master, a guru on a mountaintop, and said, Guru, what is the secret of life? And the guru says, do not argue with fools. Well, I certainly don't agree with that. To which the master replied, you are right. And that's exactly how you do it. You agree. And you can agree in such a way that no one takes it seriously. That's verbal judo. Finally, for those of you who are thinking seriously about verbal self-defense, there's a great book I'd like to recommend called Search Within Yourself by Chade-Ming Tan. Chade-Ming Tan is the meditation, mindfulness, and emotional intelligence officer for Google Corporation. Google actually has a formal program for mindfulness and emotional intelligence that their managers go through. And this book has Search Within Yourself in the Google colors, because Google's a search engine, is a great book to read. It's not very long, very well written, well researched with information about neurophysiology, and also written tongue-in-cheek. It's a fun read. And in that book, Chade-Ming Tan talks about a technique he calls the Siberian North Railroad, which is a way of ensuring that you do good verbal self-defense. Siberian North Railroad. the acronym SNRR. Here's what it stands for. When someone's attacking, someone's getting hot, someone's saying toxic things, S, stop. Take the sacred pause. Just don't shoot from the hip. Be quiet. N, notice. Notice what's happening in your body. Is your back getting straight? Is your hair standing on end? Are you becoming stiff-necked? Are you clenching your fists? Notice what's happening. R, reflect. Why is this happening? What part of you is getting triggered? What part of your narrative as a person is being attacked by what's happening? Understand yourself as a way of understanding what's happening. So if you have an issue around your appearance, and you know that from childhood, and this person's critiquing your appearance, instead of getting defensive, stop. Notice what your body's doing. Reflect on why. I've got a childhood script. I know it's not true, but I got a childhood script about my appearance. And then and only then, the final R, respond. Don't react, respond. Make a calm, uniform response that will not escalate, or at least if it escalates, the other person does it, you don't. And you'll carry the day. Hey folks, thank you very much for being here. I do one of these videos, 5-10 minutes, every Saturday afternoon at 2:30 Central Time. Please feel free to join me. I'll be back next time, and next time I'll be talking about a historical figure in the history of professional hypnotism, Emile Coué. And he was actually a very influential person. A lot of hypnotists know him for his simple little book called My Method, but I'm going to be talking about his hypnotic theory at a greater depth. And he developed a method of self-help that I think anyone would find useful, so I'll be talking about that next. As always, if you think I could be helpful to you, either as a life coach, a hypnotist, or some combination thereof, please feel free to reach out to me through my website or through Messenger and Facebook here, or email. I'll be putting a slide up that will appear next once I edit this video with my website URL. Check it out. And thank you very much. Have a great day.